Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Lost Love Stories. I'm your host, Pam Baker, and I'm excited today because we have our first actual international guest. I happen to love her dearly. She is my cousin. I always say my cousin,
Nice.
and then I'm like, I mean, our husbands were cousins, so we're cousins. So,
Yeah.
period. End of sentence. That's how that is. But welcome to the show, Leah McFarland from Vancouver.
Thank you. It's so good to see you always,
Yeah.
and, even on this format
I'm
too.
even talking about what we're going to talk about, but
Yeah,
we're talking about our guys. So
yep,
that's always a good thing,
always a good
even
thing.
though it's a weird way to talk about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. We had a little catch up sesh the other day. So I loved that and just in preparation for this. And that was really a special time. And we're just going to get into some of the stuff we talked about the other day and just getting to know your story with Brian. And, always want to start with a love story. So tell us about you guys. We have a tradition in this family. For those of you who don't know us, like super long dating, super long
Yeah,
dating
yep,
history, and we
yep.
share that with ours. So yeah, talk to us. How did you guys meet, and where did it all?
So we met, Brian and I met in 1984. We were both at Princeton. I was a freshman. He was a big old junior, a very old man. And his brother, Tommy, was in my class at Princeton, and we were friends. And so we were at we were hanging out somewhere, and these two guys older, like two guys came in, and one of them was the brother of another one of our friends, and they looked alike. So I was like, oh yeah, yeah. And then Tommy was like, that's my brother, and I was like, no, it isn't. I was like, no, oh, okay, sure, your brother.
Mhm.
And, because Brian was basically he's bald, and he was bald when I met him, so, there were no false advertisings. He's always bald, um, and he was, he was not my type. My type was John Baker. My
Uh-huh.
tall,
Uh-huh.
dark hair, athletic, handsome,
Uh-huh.
Brian was handsome, but
Yeah.
he was not that type. He was
Mhm.
very fair. He was really pale red hair, blue eyes. Um, but he and I became friends. And every time there was some kind of crazy something going on, or everybody was having a really good time, or something really fun was happening, you'd pick through what's in the middle, and it was always Brian.
Mhm. I could
He
totally.
was at the middle of every fun thing. He
Uh-huh.
was always instigating something fun. He was always present when something fun was happening. He was always in the middle.
Uh-huh.
He was the ultimate kind of belonging person. He
Yeah.
belonged everywhere. He was comfortable everywhere. Um this is one of his incredible qualities. If you saw him on the street, he could be a gardener, or
Uh-huh.
in a biker gang, or also he was a really prominent crown prosecutor here, one of the most experienced trial lawyers in the province. And he could fit in anywhere,
Uh-huh.
anywhere at all. Um in a tux, he looked perfect. In Wellington boots, and working as a stevedore, he looked perfect. He looked
Yeah.
perfect in
Yeah.
any environment. So he was just the most fun, and we became really good friends at Princeton. I had such a crush on him, and I tried all my best flirting moves, not get him to make a move.
Oh, wow.
I knew he liked me,
Uh-huh.
but then after he graduated, he went to law school, and I was like, oh well. And that summer, I went home. I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I went home, and saw a friend of mine, and I was like, yeah. She goes, are you dating anyone? And I was like, no. And she's like, and I said, but I have met that guy I want to marry. And
Oh,
she's
you
like,
said that.
yeah. And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, yeah, and she's like, but you're not dating him.
Not yet.
Not yet. And I have a journal I was keeping at that time. And I wrote in there, all I've just met, he is he is so fabulous. He is the guy for me. All I want to do in my life is grow up,
Wow.
buy a Toyota Celica, have 2 kids, and marry Brian. That was, like, it.
My
That was
God.
my life dream.
Dream.
Such big goals.
That's amazing.
Um, but that was before we were even dating. So anyway, blah, 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 blah. He graduates, he moves away, and then a friend of his came back to school and was like, "Oh, aren't you and Brian together?" I was like, "Oh, Brian's clearly been talking about me." And so then I went up to Montreal to visit a friend of mine, and I and Tommy was going up too, so we drove up together or something. I can't even remember. And it was like a Super Bowl party, and we're like, he was like, "Oh, do you want to go to Gavin's for?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." So, and I was, of course, thinking, and Brian was there, and
Mhm.
then they ended up inviting me to go up to Ivry, which was there. They have a place in the country up there, and I didn't know if Brian would be there, but I was like, "Yeah, I'll go anyway. It should be really
You're like,
cool to see the
"These
place."
these people."
Yeah. Well, I didn't think he'd be there because he was in law school and he's had classes that week, but he skipped all his classes and he came.
Oh,
That was where our relationship
okay.
started. So we always viewed like Super Bowl 87 as our anniversary.
Okay, okay, cool.
Yeah. And we had 7 years of dating, as one does in the McFarland family. Um, and we moved out here in 1990, and we got engaged in 1993 and got married on December 30th, 1993, because everything's half price on
Yeah.
December 30th.
Don't love a good deal.
Nothing is booked, you know?
Yep.
Like, free. You get the best band, 50% off, the nicest hotel room, the nicest ballroom. Yeah. And John was in our wedding party.
He
Yeah.
was. I was there. It was beautiful. That's amazing. Oh, I love that. Okay, so then, that was what year?
That was 1993.
93. Okay. And then that's the year I graduated from
Yeah.
college. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And then child number 1.
Yeah, so we moved out here, and then, yeah, child number 1 almost right away. Like, basically, we knew we were getting married for at least 3 or 4 years, and we got married because we wanted to start having a family. So we had our eldest daughter, Catherine, in 1995, October 17th,
Mhm.
and then we had Carolyn in 1997, November 17th,
Mhm.
and then in 2004, I have a friend who had like, a friend who has 2 kids the same age as Catherine and Carolyn, another little boy, and then she had another baby, and our kids were at tennis, they're playing, blah, blah, my friend Sharon, and I was like, she was like, "Oh, one of her kids fell down." She's like, "Can you hold my baby?" And I was like, held her baby, and I was like, "Oh, I need
I gotta have another.
always been wanting a third. I was
Uh-huh.
like, "I need another baby," and so Zoe was born on July 17th of 2005, and everyone's like,
Weird
"Oh, is she
that they were
pregnant?"
all on the 17th. That's
Yeah,
cool.
she was on purpose. She was not an accident. Yeah.
No, it's good. Gotta make sure she knows that. I
Yeah.
always I call Duncan my bonus baker because he was an accident, but he was the baby that completed me. Oh, I
Oh,
just love.
I know. Zoe was the baby that completed me too.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's
In
so
our family, we call her the baby Jesus. So
well, everybody in my family is like, "I know he's your favorite." So I'm like, "Mm."
that's what, and the other girls are, well, in our family, because Zoe's so much younger, they're like, "She's our favorite too." So
Oh, that's good. My kids don't say that about Duncan. Oh my god. Okay,
mm,
that's awesome. So you're building your life,
yeah,
everything's going great,
yep.
and,
Yeah,
things
Brian he worked for the Crown out here, which is basically like an assistant district attorney.
okay.
And we only ever had one car because we couldn't really afford to. He was a public servant.
Mm,
And he rode his bike to work, and he rode his bike in the rain. He rode his bike in the snow. He had the oldest bike jacket known to man. It was not waterproof for about the last 10 years that he wore it. He never bought anything. He was super frugal. He wasn't cheap. Like, he didn't, he would, he, but he hated spending money. He always felt guilty. So he never bought himself a cup of coffee at the office.
oh,
He
wow.
never bought himself lunch. Or he did sometimes go to the Sunrise Market where you can get like an entire Chinese food buffet meal for like 1.99.
Yeah,
Is it cats? We don't know, but
don't
he loved,
ask.
you know, the fruits at the whatever, that, and, he he would write he was, the head of the office in North Vancouver, which is it's like a 45-minute to hour, depending on traffic, 45-minute drive, maybe half an hour if there's no traffic,
Okay.
like, down from our house. We live at sort of top of a hill, down through downtown Vancouver, across a bridge, up, the beginnings of the mountain, to the
Oh
office,
my god.
and he would ride his bike there every day for, like, 5, 6 years,
Oh
and
my god.
an hour and a half home every day. And he had a torn towel that he'd tie around his head under his bike helmet so the sweat wouldn't get in his eyes. He had his flapping, like, non-waterproof coat. He kept
Oh
his
my
suits in
god.
the office.
Mhm.
And his flapping pants. And one time the girls and I was when we first moved to this house, they still went to a different school, so I had to drive them to school.
Mhm.
So we pulled up to the corner, and Catherine, our house on the corner, the garbage goes on the side. Catherine goes, "There's a homeless man in our garbage." And I said, "That man has a very nice home. That's not homeless. He lives in our house. That man is your father."
That is your dad, in fact.
That, you
That's
know, that was
hilarious. Oh
yeah,
my god.
yeah.
That is an awesome story. I didn't know that. I didn't know that he was that I do remember hearing stories about him riding his bike all the time, but I didn't realize it was that far away. Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
but he was so loved at his work. He never complained about the hours. They just named a board a boardroom after him over there, and, they still all talk about him all the time, like, he's so
Mhm.
present for
That's really
them, because he was such a mentor.
Mhm.
He was the guy you went to with questions, he was the guy he had one person he said one time came to his office and would talk to him and he fell asleep, and they didn't notice. I mean, he was chronically sleep deprived,
Yeah.
he never said no, he had an absolutely epic capacity for trials. One year he did, like, 300 trials in a single year.
Wow.
They were, theft unders and, like,
Yeah.
small things, but, he also was, like, at the end of his career, it ended up being the end of his career, he was, prosecuting serious crime, like, all only really only serious crimes, kidnappings, rapes, murders, sex
Yeah,
assaults.
which aren't like you don't just throw those together. They take a lot of prep.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he never brought that stuff home, like, he really could compartmentalize, which, has its uses in that situation, not so great sometimes in a marriage,
No,
but
but if you think about it, like, I like you said, him being like the center of all the fun, that's
yeah,
all I ever knew him
yeah,
as well. So,
yes,
yeah, to really be able to maintain that aura, that presence, that joy and zest for life, while
yeah,
also dealing with the worst of the worst of
yeah,
humanity or circumstances,
yeah.
that's amazing, actually. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
he was very like, he was so good at, he just was interested in people, he loved people, and so even, like, I remember one particularly bad murder that he had, and he got a conviction, and it was a really tough case, like, it was tough sort of to prove, and he got a, murder conviction and not a manslaughter conviction, which was like, it was questionable whether or not it was gonna
Mhm.
be which one it was gonna be, and I was like, "Oh, that's so great," and he was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Aren't you, like, happy?" And he was like, "No." Like, he's like, it's not something to be happy about."
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't, like, scolding. He just said, "Yeah, no,
Mhm.
it's so depressing." Like, he's
Yeah.
like,
Tragedy of it.
there are no winners." He said, and, he said something which actually helped me a lot after he died, which he said, "There's no such thing as closure." He said, "People always think there's gonna be this, once you get the conviction and you're gonna feel better." And, that's not the closure isn't a thing. He said the person when you get the conviction, and the person who died is still dead,
Yeah.
still were murdered. The family's still missing their person.
Mm.
The murderer's family is destroyed.
Yeah.
Even the murderer has destroyed their own life. Like, it's
Yeah.
all
That's
sadness.
something yeah, as a little tangential note is like that's something people don't think about as much either, which was, so Brian to think about the murderer's family.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a lot of times I think they get so, also judged and blamed and all the
yeah,
things, but they have their own loss and fear and guilt and all the things that go along with that too.
yeah. He talked
Very
about that
unfortunate
murderer's
for
mom, like, seeing her in court and just having such compassion for her, and
Mm, brutal.
he always tried to prepare victims for that,
Mm.
victims' families and victims themselves for, like, there isn't gonna be closure.
Yeah.
And a
No.
lot of times, like, he had cases that he couldn't, prosecute, like, there wasn't enough evidence, or
Mhm.
that, what, they weren't gonna get a conviction, and he had to really help victims come to terms with understanding that he still believed them, they had still been a victim, that
Mm.
suffering was valid, important, recognized, legitimate,
Yeah.
and that, in a sense, that although the trial mattered and all that, that that he was able to give a lot of people a sense of comfort. And when he died, when I had to go through his office, there was a letter from I don't know if it was a victim or a witness in a case, but she had been a sex worker, and she had said, "You were the first person who really treated me like I mattered and made me feel like a person."
Wow.
Um, yeah, and he had kept that.
Yeah, that's a biggie. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah,
That's amazing, and
yeah,
I'm not surprised at
yeah,
all. I'm not
yeah,
surprised at all.
yeah.
Um, so, before we get into the wah-wah of this, um, Brian, speak to me about, how he was as a dad.
Oh my god, he was an incredible dad. He loved being a dad. Being a dad was like he was born. I mean, the sad one of not saddest, but like one of the terrible losses is not him not getting to be a granddad. He was like born to
Mhm.
be and like a granddad. He loved hanging out with kids. So he had endless patience for like pumping gas with the kids, like doing whatever meaningless, task they were engaged in. He loved to play. Like
Mhm.
he was really a kid at heart in many ways. And he loved his girls. He was such a girl dad. He loved women, but he was not a creepy loving women guy. Like all the women at his office loved him. And he was like one of the girls. Like he was one of those husbands who like it wouldn't be like anyone would stop talking about something if Brian was in it.
Mhm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
There's a man here. Yeah.
yeah, no, it was like
Mhm.
it's Brian. So
Yeah.
like
Just keep talking.
yeah. And he would pick the girls up from anywhere, any hour of the night. Like he would he wanted that. He wanted them to yeah, he was just the best dad. He was like the spring before he died, Zoe was in ballet, and her ballet was like quite far away. It was every single day from
Mhm.
school, driving like an hour and a half there, and then
Wow.
and then usually less time back. It was mostly the traffic that made it take so
Mhm.
long. And there were two other little kids in her class, two other friends, similar age, that lived near here. And Brian and the other parent, we'd be texting each other. We were in a text to because we were coordinating pickups and we were carpooling. And Brian was like, "Let me pick them up," because the other people, that was their eldest child, and they had younger kids who were so in all these
Oh,
activities,
yeah.
and we didn't have that anymore. And he was like, "Let me do it. I'd love to. I'd actually prefer it."
Yeah. Yeah. Just want the time in the car. Yeah.
Yeah. Kids, you loved listening to them chattering away in the back and like, yeah.
And, I don't know if you feel this way, but with Zoe, being that much younger, for me, when John died, I felt like it was a loss for each of the it's obviously a loss for all of the kids, all of the family, but because John was like Brian, such a great dad, like, he did all the things, the coaching,
He
everything.
loved
I
it.
feel like Duncan got so gypped, like, I felt almost worse for Duncan,
Yeah.
the other kids, because they got so much more of John as a dad than Duncan got.
And Catherine has said that. Like
Really?
that's part of what she carries in her grief.
Oh, wow.
Though he doesn't get to
Yeah.
n- as and have all the things she had. So he doesn't get to call him drunk from college and be like, "Dad, boo."
Yeah.
Have him say, "Nobody cares. It's totally fine."
You're good, you're
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I think about that. Duncan was 9 when John was diagnosed. So,
So he won't. And yeah, yeah. Zoe was 16
Mhm.
when
Yeah, it's
that.
young. They do, they're missing out on so much. I mean, I feel like the hole is probably felt bigger by the older kids because they got so much more,
Yeah.
but then the younger ones missed out on so much.
And Zoe had the benefit too of that age gap, and like we knew how fast that time went. And so and because there weren't other really kids in the house, she got
Almost like
more
giant
time. And
mm,
like we had COVID, and
uh-huh.
that like we at the time of COVID, they just transferred court to working from home. So he was in here doing trials in
Oh,
this room.
wow.
This is where he sat. And he was like, "I must have the most beautiful office."
Yeah, it is beautiful. Uh-huh.
Uh, and I mean, it was Catherine moved home and Zoe was here. Carolyn, unfortunately, was in Boston, but like we were all in the house together. We had these crazy dinner parties every week. We had like dress up night every week. And like, I was like, listen, my liver cannot take this.
I know.
I went and I fell asleep in the dog bed. Brian fell asleep on the stairs.
Oh my god.
Like,
I've said this on other podcasts when I've been a guest on other podcasts that, and I feel it feels weird to say it, but
yeah,
I
yes,
loved COVID. I mean, I know that it was horrible in so many ways, but for our family, it was so precious because it
yeah,
gave us that time that
yeah,
knowing what we know
yeah.
now, was such a gift.
Such a gift. We were so lucky. Like we would say that like we were like, I know this is terrible. Like this is awful. People are dying, and we are so lucky and having the best time. Like
Yeah.
we had a great COVID. We didn't like we saved money. And we
Mhm.
were super aware of that. And we were like, okay, oh no, we gotta redouble our like so I booked extra sessions with my trainer on lines because I knew that all their clients were
Yeah.
canceled. They were losing all their income. We we started ordering from our favorite restaurants,
Yeah.
like expensive food, like expensive meals at least once a week to make
Yeah.
sure those businesses would stay in business
Yeah.
and like being super conscious about that because we knew that we were so privileged in
Mhm.
not having to be in a situation where we were threatened and
Mhm.
we had all of this time together and it was we had so much fun like we played tennis in the street outside our house because they had closed all the parks and he and I spent so much time together and that was such a gift as it turned out. Yeah,
As a
he
child.
went he they told them in it was in April of 2022 when they were like, okay, pretty much everybody's got to come back to work, but you could work from home 1 day a week. And part of our sort of dynamic was like, I don't want to admit this to him, but I'm really sad that he's going back to work. And I said that to him. I was like, I don't want to tell you this because I don't want you to get swelled at and don't think
Yeah, yeah.
that I'm
Mhm.
really sad you're going back to work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, so, let's talk about
Yeah.
the day.
So I'm going to cry and
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's still something that lives in my body,
yeah.
uh, because it was extremely traumatic. So we were in North Carolina at Emerald Isle, which is a beach. It's this David Sedaris's beach, and the beach. I went there every summer from the summer I was born. My family had a house there. We went there every summer for a couple weeks, and Brian loved it there. Like we loved it there because there was nothing to do.
Mhm.
Like there's nothing to do. You're like wake up in the morning. You're like eat some breakfast, walk down to the beach. Should I read on the beach or should I read on the deck? Like should I swim? Should I go for a run? There's nothing to do. It was so
Yeah,
relaxed.
so amazing.
And it we had just sold our family house, and so we took my mom there because my mom at the time was 87, 86, something like that. And it was getting harder for her to get around. So we were like, we want her to, and so my brother was there, my sister was there. Luckily, her kids had been there, um, but they had luckily gone back to
Mhm.
Boston. They had programs or something, so they couldn't be there. My kids were all there, and Carolyn's boyfriend was there. And my sadly or luckily, I don't know, my brother-in-law Mike, who was married to my sister, two of our ushers married women in our family, and they were Brian's roommates at Princeton. So they're both called Mike. So it's like super confusing.
Mhm.
But the two uncles Mike are both now married into the family,
That's so
and they have been incredible. They have been the most incredible supports. Like really, like just been like doing all the dad stuff
Oh,
with
wow.
them. But anyway, Mike was not there because he had to have some surgery or something, or he was had some medical thing he was dealing with, so he couldn't be there. Um, so Catherine and Brian had gotten there later because Brian had a kidnapping case he was doing. And they flew and got there the morning of my birthday, which was July 2nd, was my
Mhm.
56th birthday, I think. And I just had I started to get this bad feeling. Like I was like, I actually, it just, this feeling of like dread, this
Mhm.
feeling of worry. And I actually looked up online the morning he died. I was like, because I have a couple of heart issues, and I was like, I've heard that sometimes when people are going to get a heart attack, they have this feeling of impending doom, and I was like, is it that? Like, what is
Yeah.
wrong? I don't know what's wrong. Went for a run. It was kind of muggy. Like the weather had been stormy the day before. The water was pretty rough, but the flags were sort of they're either green, yellow, red, or black X, and they were yellow. So it was like, it's rough, be careful,
Yeah,
but
but
still
not like, "Don't go in."
yeah, still safe to go swimming. Um, so we were on the beach. We had, it's in the afternoon, sort of 1, 2 o'clock. We're on the beach reading. I was with my sister, and I was like talking to her, and I was crying. I was like, I had this feeling of just, and I was like, is it because like because Zoe's graduating, she's going to go away, and it's just going to be us, and we have to figure out this new life. And like, what is this about? Like, I didn't know. And, and then it was super windy, and so the sand was kind of stinging, and Brian was like, Brian and my brother was training for triathlons. He did triathlons all the time, and so he was like, I'm gonna go swim laps in the ocean,
Yeah.
like basically let the current kind of pull on you, and you use it like a wave pool. And Brian was like, I'm gonna go body surf, and he said to Zoe, "Oh, do you want to come?" And she's like, "No, no, no, it's too rough." And it was too rough for me. I wouldn't have gone in that day. Um, and so off they went, and then I went up to the house to read, took a shower, got dressed, was reading at the house, and then I heard sirens, and they have, like, lifeguards who sort of go up and down the beach just checking on people, and you hear sirens a couple times a week, like,
Mhm.
not unusual, but they stopped really close. Like, I could hear they stopped really
Yeah.
close, and I was like, "That's really close." Like, it sounded like it's next door almost. And so I walked out on the deck, and I think I said out loud, "Better not be Brian screwing around or having to get rescued or something
Mhm.
stupid." And, um, I looked down on the beach, and I saw this little group of people, with the lifeguards, like, there was something, doing something. And then I saw my brother stand up, and he had his hands on his hips, and he looked over there, and then he started to walk, and then he started to run. And then I looked, I saw Zoe. Zoe was on the beach. Her face, like she was looking up, and the phone was ringing because she was calling me. And she she was screaming in the phone, "It's dad!" And so I ran down onto the beach, and I grabbed her, and I said, "Go back to the house. Get your sisters. Get Aunt Rachel." And I started to run towards, and I could see them giving him CPR, and his stomach going up and down. And I could see his feet, which he always had really turned out feet, so he was lying in that posture. And I knew nothing would ever be the same. Like, I knew that. I thought, "Oh, maybe I can walk," and then I was like, "No, no, I gotta run." And I was like, "This nothing will ever be the same. Nothing will ever be the same." And I got there, and I grabbed his foot, and I said, "Brian, I'm here." And his head was on the side, and he was intubated, and, his eyes were sort of closed 3/4 of the way, and, they had patches on his chest, and they were giving him CPR. And, then they were like, "Ma'am, you need to step back so he can work," and then they kinda surrounded him. And then I then my children came down to the beach, and started screaming and collapsing. They were, hugging each other, and my sister. And I said, "Don't look, like, don't look." I knew he wouldn't want them to see him like that. And, then they put him on a board, and the police came over, and they were talking to my brother, and I was just, like, folded over going like, "What's happening? What's happening?" I was just like, "No, no, 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 no." And, um, and then, uh, yeah, the police said, "We're gonna take him to they'll be taking him to this hospital, and, like, you should meet at the ambulance there." And so we went back to the house, and, like, I found out late, like, I didn't know, but I found out later they'd had to carry one of my kids back to the house, like, they were in such distress.
Wow.
And the kids were like, "Okay, we're going to the hospital." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. I'm going to the hospital with Uncle Tom. That's my brother's name too, weirdly." And I was like, "You're staying here. I'll call you if you need, when you need to come or whatever, like once I know more." And I knew it was going to be really, really bad. And that was, like, my first decision I had to make as a single parent, like, to protect them.
Mhm.
And, I texted his brother. I said, "There's been a terrible accident, and, Brian was pulled from the water getting CPR on the beach." And he said, "Is he gonna be okay?" And I said, "No, I'll call you in the car." And so I called him, and I told him I looked really, really bad, and, I said, "Please find somebody to be with your parents and call them and tell them there's been an accident." And, he didn't do any of that. I found out later, but anyway, we went to I was just, like, in total shock, went to the hospital, got there, and they were like, "We don't have anybody by that name here," you know? And I was just like, "Oh my this can't be happening," and I just was, like, folded over in the emergency room, and they were like, "Okay, well," they could see, like, something really fucked up was going on, so they
Yeah.
took us in that room, the room of the room with no windows where
Mhm. A room
the
of doom.
the room of doom, and and we sat there and we waited, and uh, a doctor or nurse, she was in, like, trauma, the glasses and the
Mhm.
scrubs and all that, like, with we're getting ready for a trauma to come in, obviously my husband, and, she said, "I haven't seen your husband yet, he's on the way, and I'll let you know when I have more information." She went back out. My brother was like, "It's not great if you beat the ambulance to the hospital." And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And so he just sat there and, like, cried. I think I don't know, I can't remember even how long it was, it felt like forever, and then she came back in and she said, "I haven't seen your husband. They're not bringing him to the emergency room, they're taking him straight to the morgue." And I said, "Can I see him?" And she said, "No, they had these restrictions because of COVID." And in a way, there was part of me that knew it just wasn't gonna matter because I'd seen him on the beach, but, I
Yeah.
mean, I do wish I'd gotten to see him. Anyway, so then she went out again, and then, we cried, and my brother called his wife, and, and then the paramedics came in, and they said, like, the people who had pulled him out of the water were ER nurses. Their husbands had seen him floating face down in the surf, they had pulled him out, um, started compressions immediately, the lifeguards had gotten there in 1 minute and the ambulance in 5, and that he had never had a pulse. And his lungs were full of water, and they didn't know what had caused his death, but they were gonna do an autopsy and find out. And so they went out again, and then they said the medical examiner will be in. So she came in, and she said, "We don't." I was like, "What happened?" Like, she's like, "We don't know. We'll do an autopsy. We'll find out." And I said, "Can I see him?" And she said, "We'll do an autopsy." And I said, "Well, can I see him after?" Or I said, I think I asked, "Can I see him again before?" And she explained why I wasn't gonna be able to see him in the morgue and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then she said they're gonna do autopsy, and I said, "Can I see him after?" She said, "You're not gonna wanna see him after." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, I know that," because Brian's job, I knew what they did in autopsies. So, and she said, "I'll take good care of him." And then they asked, like, did he wanna be cremated or did he wanna be buried? And I was like, "Well, he'd want what's cheapest, so he'd wanna be
Mhm.
cremated. He wouldn't wanna put anyone out with coffins and all that
Mhm.
kind of nonsense." And so she said, "What funeral home do you want?" And I'm like, "I don't know." She
I don't
said,
know,
"This
yeah.
one." Yeah, "This one's the closest." And, and, um, and then she said, "The police will be calling you," whatever. So we went out, and I had to call his family, and I had to call my children. And they were screaming, like,
Course.
He's dead," like, um, and then we drove back, and yeah, and then I had to start telling people.
They don't know how long he was like, how is there a time frame of
No, so, I mean, we later found out, like, I was like, "Did he have a heart attack?" Like,
Huh.
there's nothing to hit your head on either, like,
Right.
there's like, North Carolina, there's no logs, there's no rocks.
Mhm.
There were no marks on his body. And I was like, he must have had like a heart attack. I couldn't understand because he was a super strong swimmer, like loved body surfing, had done that his whole life everywhere, been in way, bigger surf and waves than North Carolina.
Mhm.
And after the autopsy, they were like, he drowned. He just drowned. His heart was great. He didn't hit his head. His brain was great. Everything was great. He drowned. And it's like, I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you get tumbled by a wave and you kind of, I think you have because we talked about that. You don't know which way up is and you get this panicked feeling. And
Yeah,
it's like, if that happens and you come up to breathe and another wave hits you, and then you come up to breathe and another wave hits you,
right.
that's the end of your life. You're dead.
Yeah.
The ocean, we don't. And I also knew it is very hard to live because there were other people swimming.
Mhm.
Nobody, people were not, my brother was swimming at the same time. Nobody like saw him struggling in the water. So we'll never know.
Right.
And you have to live with it. That just, you'll never know. And in a way, like it can be a real wormhole, a rabbit hole that can just
Yeah.
pull you down and take all this focus. And it's like, it doesn't matter. It's the
Well,
same
yeah,
closure. Like, doesn't matter.
gonna say exactly what Brian would say is like, why does it matter? You
It
can
doesn't
make yourself
matter.
crazy trying to figure out why, but it's not
Yeah.
changing the result.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something a lot of people are looking, they wanna know, like, "Why? Well, wait, what happened? Like, he
Yeah.
did he know how to swim?" And it's
Mhm.
like, you can die at any time
Yeah,
from nothing,
from
you
nothing.
know?
Mhm. Yeah, I remember that conversation when we were actually in
Yeah,
Canada when we were at the family cottage when we got
yeah,
the news, and that's what everybody said, "He must have had a heart attack.
yeah,
There had to be something else."
yeah,
Yeah. Which again, like, ultimately, who cares?
yeah.
It
I know, but it's like you
Yeah.
feel you wanna make sense of it,
You
and
wanna
that, I mean,
make
that
sense
was
of it.
part of the trauma of what
Yeah,
happened is, like, your brain when something happens that's so impossible,
yeah,
he couldn't drown. Like,
right.
he's such a strong swimmer and experienced,
Mhm.
and he wasn't even doing anything stupid, like, it wasn't even, like, a day when you're not allowed to swim, you know?
Yeah.
He was just doing something normal, like, that is impossible, it's not possible, so your brain is trying to make sense,
Mhm.
so it's replaying over and over. Getting CPR, look
Yeah,
at the beach, look at this image, look at it, look at it, look at it, look at it,
yeah.
look at it.
Make it make
And
sense.
and
Mhm.
then there's like no place you can escape it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like I couldn't, I mean, Brian's brother drove down and picked us up and then took us to Philadelphia and then left us there. And then I don't, that's a whole nother story. But like we were, I was so in shock. I couldn't read. I couldn't think. I couldn't eat.
Yeah.
I couldn't I couldn't do a crossword, I couldn't watch TV,
Right.
like, there was a like, my entire brain was, like, trying to figure out where he was, you know,
Mhm.
which as I've,
Uh,
gone through this process and learned more about grief and the way the brain gets through losing someone, it's like a person has an actual location in your brain,
mhm.
like like a like, you know where your car is, you
Yeah.
know where your person is, and the closer the relationship is, the more important and the more essential that piece of information is. So, like, you could tell me where Gavin is right now
Mhm.
or the near vicinity,
Yeah.
and you'd be able to get a hold of him almost immediately if
Yeah.
you needed. That's the same with my children. And
Yeah.
that indicates the closeness of your relationship. And when they are suddenly disappeared from that,
Mhm.
your brain is trying to put them somewhere. They're like, where are they? They belong here. They're not there. Where are they? They belong. And they're trying, and that you have to relocate them.
Uh-huh.
And that takes a long
That before. That's really interesting. I've never
Yeah,
heard that.
it's
But
that's the neuroscience lens on it, like, the way if you move a chair in your house, you
Mhm.
trip over it for, like if it's been there a long time, the longer you're gonna trip over it, and
Yeah.
that's the same thing your brain does with
Wow.
the
I did not know that.
yeah,
Fascinating. Not
that's why
surprising.
that's why it's so
Mhm.
hard, and that's why it takes so many physical as well as mental resources to process this kind of loss because your brain is trying to figure out our brain is designed to recognize patterns.
Mhm.
That's what keeps us safe. That's what allows us to function. We know where everything is. Because otherwise we'd have to be like, where's the table? Where's the all
Yeah.
the time. You'd never get anything done. So like it has a map of
Mhm.
everything, of all your relationships, of all the things in your house. And when something moves, it has to learn where the new location is. So now Brian has a new location in my brain.
Uh-huh.
He's like, it's like he's in a prison camp somewhere, but it's a really nice prison camp. So he's not like suffering, but
Yeah.
there's no way to be in touch with him. And then I'm eventually going to go to that prison camp,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know?
I wonder if, I hear this all the time and I know I experienced it myself. Like, I don't have a lot of memories and I didn't have a traumatic event. That we talked about this, the difference between having a traumatic event that ends
Yeah.
life versus a chronic illness or terminal
Yeah.
illness and
Yeah.
working your way toward that. But even with the buildup of knowing it was coming for 3 years, I don't have a lot of memories of that first year. And
Yeah.
and I hear that all the time is people, it's that the empty chair first year, right? The
Yeah.
process getting through the first year with that empty chair
Yeah.
at every holiday, at every birthday, at every dinner,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
And but I experienced this, and now I've heard it from so many other women too, or people who've lost someone, not just women, but I talk to mostly widows. Um,
Yeah.
is the second year is actually harder than the
Yeah.
first, and
Yeah.
and that makes me think that neuroscience part of it is because it's almost like you're slogging through that first year and your brain is trying to resettle everything. And then the second year, it's almost like, okay, now it's in this new spot. And then it's glaringly
Yeah.
obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I mean, I'm the same. Like I'm missing giant chunks.
Mhm.
I mean, there are some memories from that time right after the accident that are like crystal clear,
Yeah.
like like a movie scene.
Mhm.
Being in the basement, being terrified of what was going to be my situation financially, and feeling like I was feeling like a dog in a trap. I needed to chew
Mhm.
my arm away.
Yeah.
Such such terror and a feeling of being trapped. So terrifying and agonizing, like these crystal moments,
Mhm.
but much of it is blank,
Yeah.
just blank, and I've realized as we've done so when did I think it was the second person I called or the third person I called was one of my really close friends named Karen, who's a psychologist. She's a PhD in psychology. Her training, her specialty is sports psych, and she's like works with Olympians. She's part of the Canadian Olympic program. Works with lots of incredibly powerful and influential like CEOs and that. Like she's very very good at her job. She head of psychology here at the 2010 Olympics. Head of psych services, all the psych
Wow.
services
Yeah.
uh, for all the athletes, and make sure those were provided. And she did all her training here in Vancouver. And so she had all this trauma specialty because if you're doing that field of like running games like that, in fact, what happened at the Vancouver Games was an athlete was killed in the lead up to the games, a luge athlete, and
Oh.
they had practiced the scenario, and she had stayed with us before when she was training, and I remember them doing this whole practice of like what do you do, you have to treat the first responders, you have to treat all the volunteers that are there, the athletes, the rest of the teams, all the other athletes, like all the coaches, anyone who's there, any spectator, like you have all these. And so she immediately, it was like I have been blessed by the most incredible group of friends, like the most incredible net of we have so many friends, like we had such a huge and vibrant social life, he and I, so many good friends, and so our friends so fun and just
Yeah.
like the best people. And it was like a net of support.
Mhm.
And Karen was like, you need a trauma board of support. You need a chair of financial services. You need a chair of food services. You need a chair of psych services.
Yeah.
You need a chair of the physical plant. You need a chair of food and beverage. Like because you,
Amazing.
as the traumatized person, will not be capable of doing anything. I could not, and I couldn't feed I think I lost 40 pounds. Like I couldn't
That
eat. I couldn't sleep, you know,
you can't
like
shower. Yeah. It's
yeah, can't shower, don't know where, can't function, and at the same time, you're meant to be filing all this paperwork and
making big,
plan
big, big decisions that affect your whole life. Yeah.
yeah, planning a funeral, writing an obituary, all these things, and, taking care of your children,
Your children.
and, so we had a rotating organized she and my sister I have a friend out here, Sarah, who's been incredible, my friend Amy, like, the Mikes, um, they coordinated people. So there was a food train and people there. I came home, my house was clean, the fridge was stocked with groceries. My friends had gone through and made sure there was no like dirty underwear on the floor or somebody was organizing the dog. You know, we had Biscuit. Our dog was my friend Izzy was taking care of Biscuit. Like everyone like came together like a
Mhm.
team
Wow.
and there was like a person in charge of each of these things. And I don't know if they thought of themselves that way, but they just did that.
Wow.
And yeah, that was huge. Just have people
Huge.
step in. We had a rotating my sister and her husband Mike came out. They went to Brian's office. He hadn't filed his taxes. He hadn't filed our family taxes. Like, luckily, we had like completely up to date wills,
Mhm.
but there was a whole nightmare of stuff of a trust he had been a beneficiary of, and that was somebody else was a trustee, and that was an entire nightmare of legal, maneuvering and all kinds of shenanigans. And so, luckily, we had a very good lawyer, but like, the my sister and Mike, they figured out how to get into his computer. They figured out how to get into his tax
Yeah.
thing. I mean,
Mhm.
like mountains of papers. He was not an organized person.
Yeah, and can you imagine you having to do that by yourself?
Yes. And also you walk out of the door and you never come back.
Mhm.
Not like you're making any choices about how you've left things, you know?
No, and it's not like, I just remember End of Life for John when we're like, "Oh, shit, I need to know
Yeah.
what's the life lock or whatever that is to get into your laptop? Like,
Yeah.
where do I find this?" And, "Oh,
Yeah.
what about" I remember at the end when he was very much not even
Yeah.
conscious anymore, and I'd think of something and be like, "Shit, like, I gotta get him awake enough to get the answer for this." Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, when you have a traumatic event,
Yeah.
you don't
No,
have
there's like a
Mhm,
lever that comes down and separates your
mhm,
life before,
yeah,
after. And the first part, it's like, I'm on the wrong train. I got, that
mm,
somebody's made a mistake. Like, I got to get out of here. This
yeah,
isn't me. This isn't my life. And then it's like, the train you're on is going to North Korea and there are no stops and you will never be able to leave.
yeah,
And you will never be able to contact anyone from the past before. Like, this is your life now. So you better learn how to speak
mm,
Korean
yeah,
and you find something to eat because
mm,
your kid,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, and again, take care of your children.
Yeah. Take care of your children.
Children.
Like, keep walking, keep looking for something to eat. Like, yeah, but so the friends were incredible. Like, I mean, my friend Amy, she's from Vancouver. She's from old Vancouver family and, her big family. So they've had a lot of family events like funerals and
Mhm.
weddings and things. So she figured out what church was big enough so that we could be able to, we figured out, she helped me figure out what the numbers were going to be. She did all the legwork and all the phone calls and then would bring the thing to me and be like, how's this? Like, what,
Yeah,
these are the two, whatever. And this is the whatever.
huge,
Um,
huge.
Huge, 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 huge.
Wow.
And there and like my sister and Mike, and then one of the other Mikes and Brian's cousin Lorna came to stay with us and take care of us. And my friend Chella flew out from she was in Matisse. She flew here to take care of us. Like, we needed somebody to take
Yeah,
care of and be in our house all the time because I mean, the kids were having traumatic, like
yeah,
dissociative panic attacks. And Karen, the other thing that she did was she got us in to see an EMDR specialist immediately, like the best person, the most experienced person who had no room, of course, for new clients, but took
yeah,
us because Karen got her to take us.
yeah. I've heard
And
such amazing things about EMDR, like,
uh,
so many, especially for traumatic
yes,
circumstances.
yeah. I mean, the first day that I realized I wasn't still standing at the beach beside Brian's body was the day we did EMDR.
Wow.
Like, it 3 hours. Um, and basically the process is you you think about the event, the
Mhm,
traumatic event from wherever it began and whatever that time was in your mind to wherever it ends in your mind, even if it's in the future, and
mhm,
you play it like a movie. And then you pick out the scene that is the most disturbing scene,
Uh-huh.
and you focus on that. And while you're focusing on that, you watch a dot or two lights go back and forth along a bar,
Wow.
and it's like it lives in your body, so you relive it. You know, the pounding heart, the rapid breathing, every emotion, like screaming panic, relive it, and then you stop and you breathe and you see like how disturbed am I? 10 on 10. Yeah. And then you do it again. And then you do it again and again and again and again and again. And it sounds like torture, but
Yeah.
what happens is the level of disturbance comes down.
Okay. So that's the end goal is like your body uh, is assimilate the word right word?
Yeah.
Assimilate?
Or like
Yeah.
you integrate the memory. You understand because your brain is like, this is still happening in
Mhm.
your brain. This is still happening because your brain does not understand what is happening. It does not make sense. It's like a flying car. A flying car, you're
Mhm.
like, what the fuck? There's a flying car. You can't stop thinking about it. And you're seeing it all the
Mhm.
time, 24 hours a day in your brain. You're seeing the brain's chest going up and down, chest going up and down, chest going up and down, his face, his face, his face, his face, his face.
Yeah.
Like horror.
Wow.
It haunts you.
Mhm.
But when you do the EMDR, it's like your brain realizes there was a beginning
Uh-huh.
and there was an end. And it's like, I don't know if you've ever watched somebody remembering something, their eyes like move around. Like
Mhm.
if your eyes are closed, it's like you're watching something. Like so your visual programming is linked to your memory system and your body, all your sensations. And so when you do this EMDR, it's like you relive the event, but like then it stops.
Mhm.
And then your brain somehow is able to work through the idea that this event is in the past. It
Mhm.
is not happening anymore. It is over.
Okay. Wow. That's
Yeah. And it's like so I've been receiving treatment and I had also was diagnosed with PTSD, and a lot of that was just the nightmare of financial and legal stuff that I had to go through.
the fallout of all of
All
it.
that, the way that, you know, people tried to trap me into doing stuff I couldn't do, demand that I do things I couldn't
Mhm.
do, like, and judgment, criticism. I mean, you wouldn't be amazed.
Mhm.
Other people who are listening to this who are not widows would be amazed at what people that say they love you and wanna support you do. The shocking things they say and expect you to do, and how angry they are at you, but probably just because they can't process their own grief and they displace it onto being angry at you, but, like, people who haven't been through that would be shocked. I know you would
Mm.
not.
No. No,
Yeah.
I remember that even when the boys were first diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, I remember
Yeah,
that same thing where it was almost like the people that you expected the most from were, like,
yeah,
shockingly, um unreliable or unavailable,
unavail
unavailable, and
yeah.
that but then the people there were always those people, like, that you barely knew that would show
Yes.
such big
Yeah,
ways that you're just like,
yeah,
"Oh, it was a nice balance, at least it balanced it,"
yeah.
but it was hard, it's like, human nature to focus on the disappointment
Yes.
of
Well, and, like, it's so incredibly impactful because you're so vulnerable.
yeah.
You're so vulnerable. You're a flayed heart,
Mhm, mhm,
open the whole world.
yeah,
People are
slowly
sticking
exposed.
arrow but yeah,
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 especially when you're really vulnerable. You're already vulnerable, just living because
yes,
you gotta figure out this new way of living,
yeah,
new way of parenting, and new way of, just surviving. But then when you have that added, like, fear of how you're gonna financially
yeah.
survive.
He was the only
Y
breadwinner
Yeah.
in our I didn't know if I was gonna have his pension or not.
Mhm.
Like, terror.
Yeah, and the idea that you might have to sell your house, that you
Yeah,
have your memories and everything that
yeah,
happened
yeah. I
no
mean,
longer
and I had
that.
Zoe said to me, like, she had obviously been overhearing some
Mhm.
of the conversations, and she said, came to me really tearfully and said, "Mom, I don't have to go to university. Just please don't sell the house."
Oh my
Like,
god.
I'm not no, I'm not gonna sell the house. I didn't know that was true.
Yeah.
that I'm never gonna sell the house, you
Yeah.
know,
Wow. Oh
but
my god.
yeah.
Oh, it's all so much. It's so much.
Oh, so much. But anyway, like you know, this web of friendships. And
Mhm.
it wasn't the same person every single day, but it was somebody every single day. Let's go for a walk. Let's,
Yeah.
um, we're gonna have drinks later. We're gonna somebody dropping off muffins, um, coming to the door to bring uh, dinner. Like, and even now, like I have not been forgotten as a
Mhm.
member of all these social groups that we were part of, like these couples groups. Like
That speaks volumes because
yeah,
so often, and it's in my same circumstance, so often that's what makes widowhood like that extra layer of salt in the wound is the
yeah,
loss of your friendships, you know?
yes,
You
yeah,
just
because it's like in a way there's a way you don't belong anymore.
Mhm.
But and I don't know if this is yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like Brian was a guy who he had many, many, many male friends,
Mhm.
an unusual way. Like he had many male friends, and a lot of those men, their wives were also my friends.
Mhm.
So we had this really close a bunch of different couples friends groups. Like and they're not all the same group, but like we were friends with a bunch of different couples.
Yeah.
And those couples are all still friends with me too.
Mhm.
Like and they haven't forgotten me. It's
Mhm.
like they and also they haven't forgotten Brian, you
Yeah,
know?
which I
And
love.
it's like this is I feel like it's a way that people feel they're including him when they include me. It's like they bring him along too. They
Uh,
do something for him and that makes them feel, you know, good because they can help him,
yeah.
by
Keep
including me.
friendship alive through that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that because that's something I experienced too, is that a lot of people just stop talking about John, which is one of the reasons I started this podcast, is a place to talk about the person you lost because
yeah,
so many people stop talking about them because they don't want to hurt your feelings or don't want to make you cry or they're just awkward about it. And
yeah,
the people that have come up to me and talk about him, I'm literally like, thank you. Like he
yeah,
existed. We all
yeah,
know this. Like just talk about him.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, and it
hard.
was like, yeah, I mean, Brian was so much and our family, we talk about him all the time.
Mhm.
Well, because like, I mean, we've talked about this too, the signs and the
Yes.
different
Oh, I wanna get into that because
yeah,
I was telling you that we see our signs and
yeah.
Beanie's in Ecuador right now for school, and she just texted me last night. She's like, "Mom," and they're in the middle of Ecuador, and, what was it? Like a s one of they were at a restaurant or something, and the server's name was Jonathan, and she's
Oh,
like, "Dad's here. He's here," and then, nobody's name is Jonathan, maybe Juan,
yeah.
but not Jonathan.
Jonathan in Ecuador? That
Yeah. So, we see that all the time, but you have some awesome stories about Brian just being very, very, very present in your life.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
and I mean, so, I mean, the first thing, which do you want me to tell my dream thing?
yeah, I love
Yeah.
it.
I
So
mean, yeah, it's like this is gonna be a news flash for a lot of people because people are like, "Oh, yeah, there's no" Look, I don't care what you believe, and you're welcome to all your beliefs in any way. I don't need to persuade anyone of anything. Um, Physics tells us that death is not the end, and 98% of physicists believe in God.
Mhm.
So just
Yeah,
yeah,
start there. Yep.
I'll start there. So when I was raised Catholic, uh, lapsed severely. But my dad went to church every day of his life, and he died 82 years old in 2016 in a heart attack in the middle of his workout, 100% physically there, 100% mentally amazing, no disabilities of any kind. Like, sign me up now for that.
That's
80,
the way. Mhm.
82. I mean, okay, 82, but 82, like, that's a good inning. And I was like, oh my, it was very shocking. And about 4 or 5 months after he died, he, I was, he came to visit me in a dream. And like, I knew I was asleep. I was like, "Oh my god, my dad's here. I can find out if heaven is real.
Yeah.
I can get information." So I was like, "Dad, what's the deal? Is there heaven?" And he goes, "Well, there is, but it's not like what you'd think." And I'm like, "Oh, so cryptic. It's classic my dad kind of answer." And I said, "Well, what's that supposed to mean?" And he said, "Love binds us all."
Oh
And
my
then he disappeared. And I woke up and I was like, "Oh my god, I just talked to my dad. I just talked to my dad." Like, you're like, "Oh my god, I just talked to him." Like, "Ah!" He said heaven's real, but it's not like, "Oh my god." And so, of course, I told this to Brian,
Mhm.
and I knew that was my dad. Like, it wasn't
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh, it's so comforting you had a dream of your dad." No, it was my dad visiting. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
doesn't feel like a dream. It's not like when you're having a dream, like, I had a dream last night about I was with a puppy on some high platform. Like,
Yeah.
no, it's not, you know?
It's a visit. Yeah.
Anyway, so I knew Brian would find me. I knew he knew that it was
Mhm.
possible. So I knew he would find me. And 5 days after he died, I had not been sleeping, and I was asleep, and I was dreaming, and I was like the children and I were at Avery, and we were wrapping Christmas presents. We weren't in the house we normally were in. We're in a different house with a big open roof, like modern house. And the kids and I were wrapping presents, and Brian was leaning against the wall, like stupid dad grin on his face, watching us. And I realized I was asleep because it was a different house. And I looked up at him and I was like, "Are you really here?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm really here." And I said, "How are you here?" And he goes, I don't really know how it works yet. I'm still trying to figure it out." And I started to say, "I hope you didn't suffer too much when you died." And all the sort of definition drained out of him. And like it changed into something like a dream. And I woke up and I was just like shaking, like, "Oh my God, I just talked to him.
Mhm.
I just talked
Mhm.
to him. He's trying to figure it out. He's trying to figure it out." And this was at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And Brian's brother was awake. We were still in Philadelphia at this point. We hadn't figured out how to get home, and they were leaving. So he was out walking the dog before they got in the car to leave. And I went downstairs. I was like waiting for him, waiting for him. He came in. I was like, "Oh my God, I just talked to Brian. I just talked to him." If you have a dream of him, know that he is actually there. He's trying to figure it out. He must have thought I was insane.
Yeah.
Upstairs, I lay down in the bed. I was listening to the sound of rain on my headphones, thinking it, and I was looking at the window, and the curtains were sort of there, and there was a gap. Could see the sun coming in. It was the summer. It was gonna be a beautiful day, and I thought it should be raining. And then there were no curtains on the window. The bed was the only thing in the room. It was raining, and Brian was standing in front of the window, and he was like it was him. He didn't have a body, but it was a shape of light of all these different colors of light, and his
Mhm.
face was moving in and out of all the ages I've known him, and he was like, "I'm here." And I was like, "I understand." And he goes, "It's really me." And I
Um,
said, "Okay." And he came around the bed and he said, "I'm sorry, he said, the financials are gonna be fine. I'm sorry it's such a mess," which I had no
yeah.
idea
Yeah.
what a
Yeah.
mess it's gonna be because we had wills and he had his pension and, like, I
Mhm.
hadn't even thought about it, to be
Right.
honest. And I got out of the bed and I embraced him and I felt his just despair at
Mm.
being taken from our children. And he said, like, with this kind of disbelief and such pain, like, "I'm never gonna see them grow up. Like, I'm never gonna walk them down the aisle." And I said, "You can find them here the same way you found me." And he said, "But it's really hard. It's hard to get here." And I said, "But you're doing so awesome." And he goes, like, we had smoked in college and we loved smoking. We'd always talk about how great smoking was, but you can't smoke anymore because it's so
Mhm.
bad for you. Okay, so he reaches up on the wall. There's a cigarette. He pulls it off, starts smoking it, and goes and disappears. And I wake up.
Wow. That's so crazy.
And I've had all these visits from him. In the beginning, he was sad. But the second time, I think I told you this too. Like he came to visit me, and he was had his head down. He's super young. He was had we're sitting in this bathroom and I was looking for my rings and had this dress on and I saw these two little diamond hoop earrings through the hem of my skirt. And I was like, I don't have earrings like that. And I was like, oh, I'm dreaming. Maybe Brian will be here. Maybe he'll come. And then I felt him sit down next to me and I reached over and I put my hand on his leg and all his body hair had been shaved off and he was young and he had his head down and he had like cuts on his head or a wound, a gash sort of. And he had his head down and he was crying. And I said, "Are you really here?" And he nodded. And I said, "Can you not speak today?" And he looked up at me like this and he went, Like, "Just look at me," was the gesture, and he had hazel eyes, and I what I do when I wake up is I record these dreams
Oh,
because
that's smart.
yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise, you know?
Mhm.
I was like, "What are these?" He had blue eyes when he was alive, and then I hugged him and I said, "You are so loved by so many people," and I said, "There's gonna be 1,000 people at your funeral," which I believed I was lying, but it turned out there were
Yeah.
that many people there and watching online, and, he goes, "Where's it gonna be?" And I said, "It's at Wesley," which there's a church we liked, and he was like, "Okay, good," and then we heard Catherine crying in the dream. I had to go back, and he couldn't come. It was like
Oh,
pulling us apart.
yeah.
And when I 3 weeks later, I got his autopsy report, and on the autopsy report, it said color of eyes, hazel.
That is insane.
When I opened that, I was sitting in the car outside the gym. I will never forget it. I opened it, and I just like,
Yeah. That's
I
crazy.
was like, oh my god,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And he's visited all my kids. He's talked about stuff. He told Catherine, he was like, I really wanna know what's going on in space," I said, "So there's really crazy things going on in space right now," and she's like, "Dad, space? Like, I'm a girl. I don't care about space." And he goes, "Satellites are talking to each other," and she's like, "Okay, Dad."
Mhm.
And, when she was telling me this dream, I said, "Well, are they?" And she's like, "Are they what?" I said, "Are the satellites talking to you?" She's like, "I don't know." So we looked it up, and it's like satellites. This is, I mean, it's terrifying. Satellites are talking to each other, but they're talking to each other.
Oh my god.
So many things like that. And he
Wow.
had a dream from him where he visited her,
Mhm.
and we were all at a party in Paris because we were supposed to be at the Olympics, and he looked so good, and he was like wearing a suit, and she was like, "Dad, you look so good," and "Can you just change what you're wearing?" And he was like, "Ugh," and he, like, disappeared for a minute, came back with a suit covered in smiley faces. And the dad, "It must have been so scary when you died," and he said, "It was scary," and he said, "But it's like being born, only you're born into a different reality, and you understand everything that's happened to you and everything you've done," and he said, "I'm still here." I it's he said, "It's hard to come in these dreams. It's hard to visit like this." But you have to do your part and believe it when you feel me because I'm there all the time. I don't wanna just be there in dreams. I wanna be there all the time,
Wow.
and he's there all the time, and it's like, so he's there with us all the time.
Mhm. Wow.
All yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, it's fine whatever people believe, and they can think whatever they want about my
Yeah.
experience. It's like, but I know when I die, he's waiting for me, and
Mhm.
I know he's with me now, and
Mhm.
he's helping me in every way he can, although, frankly, pal, it's not enough. Um, he's not taking out the garbage,
Thank you. Yeah.
but
Mhm.
it's like, I know. I
Yeah.
kn
That's
and I
I John has come to dreams sometimes, not as vividly as that. There's sometimes every time I just had a dream about him a couple nights ago, and it was not, nothing
yeah.
significant, but I'm always like, "Thanks for visiting." Like that
Yes.
little but, I didn't think I told you this the other night, but the very night that he died in the morning. I went out it was 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever. I went outside and just like wrapped in a blanket and because it's November and was looking at the stars. And I used to always tell him, if you die before me, you better come visit me. Like I'm all about the mediums and like
Yes. Yes.
seeing and crossing over and all that. And so that night I like was talking to him in the sky and just said, I said, if you can hear me and you're okay, it's gonna make me cry, but
Yeah.
just um send me a little shooting star. And literally a little tiny
Yeah.
it was a pitiful little shooting star, like a little poof, and
You're like, "Do
I
better."
I literally go, "Seriously? That's all you got?" And then a big one went, shoo, and I'm like,
Oh.
"Oh my god." That was like my first I mean, you don't just command a shooting star, you know what I mean? That I
Well, no,
was like that
it
was
doesn't
the
work
very
like
night he died, that I was like, oh, and there's so many signs. I remember going to it, not like seeing him like that, but when my girlfriends took me to Saint John, St. Thomas, the February after he died, and just did a little girls trip, and we're in some random like one little tiki bar in. it's the only thing around in this super rural place, and there's a Redskins banner hanging inside there was no other NFL teams, and that's his favorite team, of course,
Yeah.
and I was like, "There he is, like,
Yeah.
he's there,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
there."
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
are.
His friend shows up as hummingbirds. Like, we had them come sit at the window, like,
Mhm.
look, like a place they never are. And Catherine, I was talking to her on the phone yesterday. It's pouring rain, freezing out. Or no, it
Mhm.
wasn't freezing. It was warm, but pouring rain. Like we're in one of those atmospheric rivers or whatever.
Mhm.
And she's like, "Oh, there's a hummingbird." It's like following her
Oh
down the
my
street.
god.
Yeah. Eagles. And like I was on a walk not long after he died. I looked up and there were 10 eagles
That's
circling.
amazing.
Eagle flying down into my like right in front of me
Oh
into
my
my
god.
yard. Like right when we were um away, we went to Point Roberts for my birthday, and the kids and I were sitting on an eagle flying right down in front of your face.
Oh
Like,
my god.
and then they'd go like, "Dad, do it again." And
Do it
like,
again.
nice work." Yeah.
That's so fun. I know.
Mhm.
Some people don't believe in that, but I definitely do, and, like I said, being
Yeah.
against stuff
You
all
can
the time.
on. It's like, I know.
You can
So,
be open to it. I believe it happens, and some people just aren't open to seeing it, and if it's there.
right, it's fine. It's fine.
Yep.
It's because it's true, so it doesn't matter if you believe it or not.
Right.
It's to
Exactly.
me, it's like energy does not disappear,
Yeah.
and matter is never destroyed. So, like, if we think at this point in history, we know it all, we know it's like we just, quantum physics is telling us things we still believe to be impossible.
Yeah.
Retroactive affecting of different photons and like,
Right. Like,
quantum.
beyond
Or, yeah,
mind-boggling stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like whatever we think we're sure of, we just don't have the math and the physics to tell
Right.
us.
Don't have it yet. It'll come. It'll come.
Yeah.
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 So, let's talk about like what have you done? I always like to kind of talk about, you're obviously doing a ton of work for your
Yeah.
grief healing process. It's so
Yeah.
important. It's so important. I think a lot of people get lost in their grief and they
Yeah.
can't find their way out. And
Yeah.
with me, I used a one-on-one grief, a certified grief counselor, and that worked. I mean, it was really hard work. It's really
Yeah.
hard
Really hard.
if you
Really.
can learn to live with the grief in a healthy way that's not, like, debilitating,
Yeah.
ultimately, that's the goal, right? And I feel I've done that. I feel very comfortable with where I am with my grief and my healing process. So,
Yeah.
you've done the EMDR stuff, and you've done a lot of work, obviously. What are you doing now to find your path back to joy, to thriving, to living, your full life as he would want you to do?
Yeah. Yeah,
As
I mean, at the beginning, like, honestly, the trauma, shock, um, f the from the time he died until his funeral, it's like I knew everything he would want, and it
Mhm.
was like I had to do all the things for him that he needed done,
Yeah.
and so that was a very, um, powerful and important thing that kept me occupied,
Mhm.
and then once the funeral happened, I had I don't know if I did this on purpose or this is just the way my life was. I had a personal trainer and he was moving back to Ireland. So he set me up with a new personal trainer who is the most incredible person. Her name's Janella and her wife, Kat, are my trainers now. And I see them 3 days a week, one of them 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like like therapists.
Yeah.
I mean, not therapists, but it's like every I would go in there, I had an appointment. If
Yeah.
I missed it, I was gonna have to pay. So I
Right.
went,
Motivation.
got
Mhm.
me a house,
Mhm.
got me into my body. I'd
Mm.
work it's such hard work that you can't be in your brain while you're doing I mean, the first number of months that I would be just sobbing while I was on the rowing machine, just sobbing. And
Mhm.
like that gym it's called the Firm Athletica, an incredible group of people. all super experienced personal trainers, career personal trainers, and just the best group of people. Like, my friend Garfield will come up and just give me a hug. Like,
Mm,
just support. It was
yeah,
just people there creating an environment where we got you. You're here. Nope, nobody's gonna care if you cry on the rowing
yeah.
machine. Nobody's, oh, what's
Like,
wrong?
what's wrong with her? Yeah.
It's like whatever you're going through, we got you. And so that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then my tennis friends were amazing.
Mhm.
Like my age, like tennis every Tuesday. You know, just like nope, which is like it'd be like you're just drifting away, and they'll be like,
Come
nope,
back. Yeah.
tennis on Tuesday. Don't forget. You know,
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's
and
really
it's double, so it's with people, and, like, you're talking, and they're talking to you, and then, people every one of my friends, like, Let's go for a walk in the woods."
Mhm.
Well, my friend Cara, my friend Sarah, like, I mean, just come for a walk in the woods, do that, like, all these friends,
Mhm.
so many friends, and, like, each person, like, "I'm gonna come by your house, let's go for a walk," I'm gonna and, um that routine of like, okay, I've got these commitments during the week, so I can't, because I could see that I never felt worse after I went to the gym.
Yeah.
Didn't always feel better, but I never felt worse. And I was super depressed,
Yeah.
like extremely depressed. I was
Well,
like,
yeah, easy just to climb in your bed and stay there.
yes.
Yeah.
And that was what I wanted to do, or my instinct was to do that, like some wounded animal, dig
Yeah.
a hole myself. And I had a dog, so I had to get up every morning and feed her and walk, like, let her out and walk her. Um, but I was like, everyone would be better off if I was dead. I was really very, very suicidal.
Right.
And I knew Brian would support me doing anything at all, sell all my possessions, live in a van, you know, become the owner of a brothel where there was full complete consent and everything was legal, where you treat your sex workers really well, walk around town naked all the time, whatever, do crystal meth. He wouldn't
Yeah.
have even touched that, as long as I didn't hurt anyone.
Yeah.
But, like, he would not ever forgive me for
Mhm.
giving up the thing that was the most precious to him, which was the future with his children.
Yeah.
And he would not forgive me for giving that up when I had a choice to be here.
Mhm.
So I was like, well, I can't kill myself. I
Right.
have to be here. But I I really did think about it all the time. And it was just like I was in such pain. I needed
Yeah.
to get away from it,
Yeah.
and there was no getting away from it. It was suffering.
Mhm.
It's like I have these chapters in my mind. And the first chapter is like shock and horror.
Right.
And this second chapter is suffering.
Yeah.
And then it
Good.
was like all that work was like a nuclear bomb had dropped on me.
Mhm.
And I believed the entire world was destroyed.
Right.
But
Because your world was destroyed.
my world was destroyed. My entire life was destroyed. There was no place that was untouched by Brian's death.
Right.
There was no one who knew me without him. There was no world in which I existed in which I wasn't his wife.
Yeah.
There was no minute of my day that he wasn't part of.
Right.
And so I was like, well, I can't kill myself. So I have to keep walking.
Yeah.
I just have to, like, keep walking. And maybe the whole world is destroyed, you know?
Mhm.
And maybe I will find nothing but ashes and bones
Right.
as I walk here in this blackened pit, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But, eventually it's like you see one shoot of grass. And I mean, the friends just not letting me drift away. This group of friends that I have that, we have like a made up club called the Vancouver Shuttlecock Society. It's an incredible group of the most interesting people. Just like, we're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. Nope. You're coming. Yeah,
That's
we're gonna get you. We're doing this. Like and just like, you're kind of just like, you don't have any agency because you don't
right.
want nothing you want. There's nothing. I mean, you don't want to eat anything. There's nothing you want. So like people are just, and then getting treatment the whole time.
Yeah.
So like just keeping on walking, all the treatment, the support of my incredible friends
Mhm.
and people in my world. It was just unbelievable. My children. I mean, Catherine was just like an absolute hero. She would sit there and wonder if she's gonna walk into the house and find her mother hanging from the chandelier.
Yeah.
And and Zoe just like Zoe, was like, I've had some like, she told me later, she was like, "I've had such a good life and nothing bad has ever happened to me. I'm not gonna let this ruin it." And, like, she's very like her father, like, she's very forward thinking and able to see the best in everything, and she's just like, "This is my senior year. I'm only gonna get one. I'm gonna li" and her friends were incredible.
Yeah.
Like, one of them, her friends messaged me, was like, "What does she need?" I
Wow.
mean, this is a 16,
For a
17-year-old kid,
16-year-old, yeah, that's incredible.
and her friends just kept her
Mhm.
in their friend group. Like, they kept her as a person and not just her loss and her grief, and sh you know what? She really closed the door on it, and she's dealing with it in a different way as all the kids have.
Yeah.
And like Carolyn, I would call her in the midst of a panic attack, sobbing on the phone, and she would just sit there and listen to me, you
Wow.
know, and just she could contain it. So, I mean, the all of that and keeping a schedule, like knowing, having there was a part of my brain that was separate enough to be like a rational thinker.
Uh-huh.
And so it was like, "Oh, well, you don't feel worse, so you will go," you
Yeah,
know?
that's impressive, actually. So
Yeah,
yeah.
just that I keep that tiny and the other thing, the actually the greatest gift that I gave myself, and I don't know why, I have no guilt and no judgment
Mhm,
about anything I've done or said. That moment that he died, that happened,
mhm,
I know a lot of people feel guilty and feel I have no guilt for anything. I feel no judgment on myself for
mhm.
any in the ways I was, completely unable to show up for my own children, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And I think letting go of those feelings are not helpful, and they don't it's like you don't have control over them, and sometimes you just feel that way.
Yeah.
Um, but I have been mercifully free, um,
That's important. That's a
from
big
that's a big one.
because I do think guilt plays a lot. Even I mean, it's not like you could have saved him or if you
No.
did not
Mm,
swim that day or whatever, there's nothing. That
yeah,
had nothing to do with you. But
yeah,
many people would find all the reasons
yeah.
they're at fault.
Oh, I should have forced them to let me see him in the
Mhm,
hospital. It's like there's I think it's something to do with knowing with his career and seeing and him all the things he said over the years
mhm.
and and knowing like these aren't distractions. These are not what's important. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Like, did you do something that was not like what you would normally do? Almost certainly. Just
Probably, because that's not a normal
watch
circumstance.
die in front of
Yeah.
you. So, you know, the old it was like the old standards, the old playbook, the old paradigms no longer apply.
Mhm.
Like whatever happened before is gone.
Yeah.
And now we're just gonna have to get through this the best we can.
Yeah.
And I mean, Catherine said, you know what? If we end up as heroin addicts, like we'll deal with our addictions later. I mean, we didn't end up as heroin addicts, but like, I was just too lazy.
Yeah. That's hilarious that she said
Yeah.
that. Oh my
Yeah, like, you just have to get through as you can, and then you keep walking.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Ideally. Just
ideally. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and having those supports to just when you can't walk, somebody's
Mhm.
pulling you a
Yeah.
little bit.
That's awesome.
And
That's
for me, like, also, I'm an artist. I'm in my all my life, I've been a maker of things,
mhm,
sewing, knitting, painting, whatever. I have a degree in painting. So when he died, I didn't make any art
mhm.
until I mean, I still haven't really made any art. I've painted. I've done some. I've started little bits.
Yeah.
But I realized I mean, the first year is just like it was nothing but going to the gym
Mhm.
and weeping and therapy
Yeah.
and tennis and social things with my friends as I was, you know, just like
Yeah.
staggering
A
and just
zombie
keeping me
shell. Yeah.
me at coming to drinks, keeping me coming to dinner, keeping me coming to New Year's Eve,
Mhm.
keeping me at different things. And and then it was like as the second year, it's like you're actually yeah, I got more depressed. And then my brother died. My
That's
brother who was at the beach with me, who was in the room with me, um, was 14 months older than me, was killed riding his bike in a bike race, super experienced triathlete, um, gravel roads bike race, not his first, one of many. Wheel hits a rock. He's knocked off his bike, wearing a helmet, flips over, back of his head hits another rock, and he's killed instantly. 14 months
I
after.
that's what I was gonna say. It was so soon after Brian that I remember when we heard that too. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding?"
Yeah. Are you fucking kidding me?
I mean, both of those are so completely random.
Random.
Yeah,
Impossible.
impossible. Like,
Yeah.
how?
Yeah. Like nobody's parachute jumping.
Right.
Nobody's hard even race car driving like John Baker.
Yeah.
Like nobody's even doing it like it's not dangerous.
No. And he had a freaking helmet on.
Got a freaking helmet on. Killed
That's
instantly. Instantly. And like
unbelievable.
at that point I had just that group of friends of Brian's had organ one of them is just he's just hilarious. He's so fun. And he took everyone to Mexico for his 60th birthday and took us all to Tequila, which is a place in Mexico to do tequila tasting. And then we all went to the beach after. It was
Oh,
such a fun trip. This group of guys, just the best people. It was hard. It was
mhm.
hard to beat. It was hard to be at the beach.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I bet.
really hard to go swimming for the first time.
Yeah.
It was good. There was lots of crying, but I was with people who loved him and we talked about him and
Yeah.
like it was just so good. And then I came back and then like a week, not even a week later, I was about to go out for dinner and the phone rings. It's my sister and she's like, "Our brother was in a bike accident and he was killed." And I'm like,
This
"What?
isn't real. It's not real.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
What?" And then I had to call my kids
Again.
and they were like, "This can't be real." Like every feeling that you had when it's like you already have this deep trauma.
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh no." When you learn that shit anything can happen to you at any time, it's really true, and it's gonna happen to you, and
Mhm.
then I felt, like, cursed, like
Yeah.
and then I felt like also everyone knew, everyone's staring at me, I was like this object of pity and, "Oh,
Mhm.
that poor woman," you know? And it was I just was like, "I'm not gonna be able to continue," and that actually my doctor at that point put me on antidepressants because I
Yeah.
was so low. And I mean, again, the friends, like, I had this one day I was supposed to be having lunch with a friend, and it was in like November. I was so depressed. It was disgusting out. And I was like, my friend Jane, I was just like, I can't do it. She was like, "Well, I got to work from home today. So can I come work from your house?"
Mhm.
I mean, God bless her.
I know, that's amazing. What
She
a
just on
circle.
meetings. She was on like in here at the office.
Mhm.
But just to have another person in the house, like,
Yeah.
to have someone who just did that is, like, what a blessing, you know?
It is it's so amazing, and you said something earlier, and it made me think of this. I literally just got asked this, yesterday or the day before because someone locally just got diagnosed with glioblastoma, and so a friend of hers called me, it's her friend, and she's like, "What do I do?" as the friend. And your friend's, like, so instinctively knew all the right things, where so
Yeah,
many people just say, "Let me know what you need. Let me know
yeah,
how I can help." We're
yeah,
never gonna that's what I said to her. I'm like, Just don't I'll tell you what not to do. Don't say, 'Let me know how I can help.' Just say, 'I'm going to the grocery store, I'm bringing you groceries.' Like, 'I'll
yeah,
come fix you dinner. I'm going to take you out to get a drink.'" Like, there's
yeah,
no option. Don't to let
yeah,
me know because we don't fucking know. Like, nobody knows.
yeah. You really don't you can't know, and, like, to come up it's like on top of trying to remember how to eat, you're supposed to come up with a list of things that could be helpful.
Yeah,
I
no.
mean, the most important thing is if somebody says to you, "I can't" who's in grief says, like, "I can't do that," don't be angry at them, you know? And when somebody gives you feedback, like we're very bad in our culture about receiving
Mhm,
feedback. If somebody in grief says to you, "It's really hard for me when you X," then
mhm.
just understand you didn't know. You
Yeah,
didn't know. If you say something that hurts their feelings, you didn't know. How
Right.
could you know? You've never been watched your husband die on the beach before. How could you know what to do? Of course you don't know what to do. What you can do is say, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Mhm.
Um, would this be helpful?"
Yeah.
Like, "Could I pick your kids up at school?"
Yeah, that's what I think is an important thing too, because I say that to people when they ask me also. I'm like, there are things that just annoy the shit out of me when
Yeah,
people ask me, but that might be the exact thing that
that
somebody else who's
yes,
grieving needs to hear.
yeah,
So exactly what you just said is like, would this be helpful to you?
yeah,
Would this be whatever? It's
yeah.
not, and then don't be offended or,
If the yeah,
anything.
if the person says no,
No.
that's okay too.
Yeah.
That's okay too. It's like you're doing your job to show up if you
Mhm.
ask,
Yeah.
and don't give up either.
Mhm.
You
Right.
know, it
Don't
you
be like, "I tried."
yeah,
Yeah, I tried
next
to help.
you
Mhm,
call them and they don't call you back, that's okay.
mhm,
Just, be like I mean, I having been through this and then having my brother die
mhm,
and trying to show up for his children and his widow, and, like, it's so fucking complicated, it's so hard, and it's like, for me, I have no judgment about
mhm,
they may fucking not ever wanna hear from me again because it
mhm.
reminds them of whatever, it's fine. I'm
Yeah,
gonna keep reaching out, and if they tell me, like, "Hey, stop texting me," then I would stop texting them,
yeah.
obviously. But I also would even if it made me feel sad,
Mhm.
I would understand. You know what I mean? I would understand.
Right.
Like, I said to this to my one of my nieces is getting married in April, and, his daughter, which is, like, so it's just heartbreaking for her.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just heartbreaking for his wife and his other daughter. It's heartbreaking. Anyway, just so much. And I said, "Look, you don't gotta invite me to your wedding, and I won't even take it any kind of way.
Yeah.
Like, it's your wedding, and you should
Right.
have if you want like the milkman there and not your parents,
That's right.
that's what you get. It's your fucking day."
Right.
And also, like, I would understand. Like, I would not feel any kind of way. And she's like, "Well, of course I'm inviting you." I was like, "No, but just so you know."
No. Yeah.
Like, it's okay. I would understand. I
Right.
would if it's too
Mhm.
complicated, too
Yeah.
painful, or too like, I get it. Like, with my own kids, if they don't want me there, I'm
Mm,
fine with it. Like, it's
mhm.
fine. Understand, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like,
It
I can be disappointed, I can be sad,
Mhm,
and those feelings, and that's fine. And, I've found, like, real connection with my nieces, my brother's children and his wife since he died, and that's been super powerful. Like, there's room for such
mhm.
connection when you have a loss of this magnitude. I know you will
Yeah.
have
Like that
that.
shared experience is so
Yeah,
that's why the Widows Who Whine group here is so big and so important because it's just like that shared experiences, people just get it. So,
yeah,
yeah, even if
yeah,
we all need and want and see and feel different things, the base core of the story is the same, and you
yeah,
and you have that connection immediately.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, what else are you doing that's just bringing you joy these days?
So, I think probably my brother died in 2023,
Mm,
and in spring of 2024 this is gonna also sound very woo-woo, and I had was listening to I think it was the New York Times. Like, I was listening to some podcast that I listened to, and they talked about, this woman called Rebecca Almond, who they had listened to a podcast of hers, or she has a podcast called Stories in the River, I think.
okay.
Um, Voices in the River, and, she does tarot readings, and I've always been interested in systems of knowledge, like things like the Bible, mythology. What do we consider canon? What are the
Mhm,
stories we tell ourselves? How do we construct meaning? And so I was interested in tarot cards as one of these ways that people use to construct meaning and have this long, long, long history.
mhm,
And so I scheduled a reading with her,
mhm,
and this was in spring of 2024, and it was over Zoom, and she came on. It was like I recognized her. I had never met her before or talked to her or heard her voice. There was some kind of super profound recognition for me, and I
mhm,
don't even explain it. It's just one of those things. But it was like I had been in this space, this liminal space between being alive and between being dead. I was not alive. I was not living. I was I was walking in the
Mhm,
aftermath of the blast. I was not living. I
mhm.
did not want to be alive. There was nothing I wanted from life.
Yeah.
And it was like when I spoke to her, and I don't even remember what the cards were or any of that stuff. I just remember talking to her and feeling this sense of a light in a dark place.
Mhm.
Like I had been behind a scrim, behind a veil, and she made an opening in it.
Oh,
And
wow.
I don't know what it was about that conversation with her, but it was as though someone I was like, I have work to do here still.
Wow.
And that feeling of like, there is work for me to do here. There is a life for me to live here still.
Yeah.
And so now it's the process of what does that mean?
Mhm.
And part of that was ma- engaging in some kind of making something every day. So it can be baking, it can be sewing, it can be art, painting, it can be embroidery, fabric art, which is another one of the ways I work. Um, Making every day, some creative endeavor.
Oh, yeah.
It feeds me in this really essential way. So making sure I do that.
Mhm.
And then, you know, stepping a little further out. So I'm going to visit I have really close friends who live in Scotland. So I just was with them over the New Year's. They're just so much fun. My friend Izzy. And s- engaging in life in these ways, like doing different things. Last year Zoe and I rented a flat in London for a month,
Oh, wow.
and was so much fun, like
That's awesome.
so fun. And I have all kinds of friends who live in Europe, so I visited a bunch of friends. And then this spring it's like I sometimes I just get this like this I know I need to do this. So
Yeah.
I'm like this in last fall I was like I need to go to Italy and take a painting class
Mhm.
in Florence in as my friend Izzy's niece I think went to school in Florence. She's an incredible painter named Cecily Lasney. Her work's so beautiful. Anyway, um but she had studied at the school in Florence. So I started looking up I was like Florence in March.
That's
Done. No,
awesome.
just like I know it's like I
Yeah.
know I need to do that. And so I'm just allowing myself that freedom
Mhm.
without judgment and also
Mhm.
allowing this idea of what am I producing? What are the what are the receivables? It's
Yeah.
like it's like what if we allowed ourselves to just exist in the world?
Mhm.
Like when you have a child with a disability and they cannot walk and they cannot talk and they cannot produce anything, does their life have value? Yes, it does. Just as much value as the life of someone who is producing and making and doing all kinds of other
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
Equal value. And what
Right.
if we applied that to ourselves and said, if I make nothing, if I do nothing, and I just exist in the world,
Mhm.
my life too has value,
Yeah.
you
That's a
know?
lesson, which
It's like,
probably
yeah.
many people have, uh, learned.
Well, and it's like allowing
Mm. Yeah.
yourself to exist in the world and
Mhm.
giving yourself the freedom and the permission to just be
Mhm.
if that's what you need in the moment, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. I love that. It is like I say I get downloads from the universe. People ask me
Yes.
all the time, like, how do you come up with these ideas to do this, this, this?" And I'm like, literally, I literally pray every morning to
Yeah.
keep myself open. And I pray, I say, angel spirit,
Yeah.
just help me stay open to whatever
Yeah.
messages you need me to know
Yeah.
to guide me to do my greatest good. Like,
Yeah.
that's my ask every day. And then I say I literally get downloads from the universe that is
Yeah.
like an idea or a thought or whatever. There's this podcast or whatever it is.
That's
It's like
experience.
I feel like I just ask to stay open to the messages,
Yes.
and then I get them.
You're available. You're like
Mhm.
and that is exactly what I feel too. Like a
Mhm.
lot of all
That's what
of
it
this
feels like. That's what it's
yeah,
reminding me, like, "Ooh,
exactly.
Florence. Ooh,
I have used that exact phrase, like it's a download. It's like,
That's interesting. Uh-huh.
it's time for you to buy a car. I got
Mhm.
that one. I was like, all right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Like you're just like, I got to do this now.
Yeah.
And if you just, so much of our lives we spend turning out those messages and being like, oh, I can't because that would be blah, blah, blah. And someone might judge. But once you go through something like what you've been through and what I've been through, it's like, you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, fuck it. Someone wants to judge? Go ahead. Go ahead. You don't like how I handled watching my husband die on the
I
beach? You
literally said the other
yes.
day, I was talking to somebody and they were saying something about what kind of music, like, who do you love? And um, I said, "I absolutely love like Taylor Swift and Sabrina Carpenter." And I go, "Don't judge me." And I was like, and I literally said, "Don't judge me." It was in a text. And I go, "Or you can. I don't give a shit.
I
Like, I don't care. I don't
yes. Yes.
do what you want. It's not my problem."
Yeah.
I love them. That's my
Yeah.
answer. Yep.
Yeah. A
Mhm.
same, same.
Yep.
And it's like, go ahead.
Uh-huh.
You don't it's like you don't have any room for that.
No.
You
No.
have been through the fire, you
Mhm.
know?
Yep. We survived.
You know what? I do feel it's like there's that psalm, I've walked through the valley of death, and you were with me.
Mhm. Yep. We're still walking.
Yeah, we're still walking.
Still walking.
Yeah.
Well, I have loved this conversation. I
Same.
told you
We
just
went over time.
no, I told you I'd go where
I
it goes, and there's no super tight agenda or the way I do it. So I love it. I will ask you as a final thought, like, well, first of all, I need you to show everyone the picture of Ryan,
oh, my Brian. I'm
and
little
then
like, okay, so this is our wedding photo.
mm, love. That's such a gorgeous picture. His smile is just like the best. Always has a smile. Always.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He was the best. He was so much fucking fun. God,
He
he was
was so fun.
and then so they just named this boardroom after him in North Vancouver, and I've got
Oh,
this
I love
in
it.
court with we train guide dog puppies for BC and Alberta guide dogs. And then and this one
Oh,
is him.
oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Very
He
good.
used to tell he used to tell Crown prosecutors who knew people would come in and they'd be like, all worried about their theft under case. And he'd be like, look, if it was important, we wouldn't have given it to you. Just go in and do your trial.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, anything we didn't touch on or any parting nuggets of wisdom or thoughts you wanna share before we sign off?
Oh, just like yeah, I mean, you can hear it in my voice. I carry him with me
Yeah.
every minute, every day, and I'm losing him.
Mhm.
And yeah, he's my husband still, and I miss him so much. He was the best. He was the absolute best. I
Yeah,
just remember, like you, if you wanted to, I mean, it's just such shit that John and Brian, the two best wedding dancers,
I
won't
know.
want children's weddings.
No.
The best. They were
I
the best.
know. Uh-huh.
John on the table with the kilt swing.
He always had the kilt swing.
He
Yep.
always had the absolute best. Oh,
Yeah,
we miss them so much.
we do. We do.
Yeah.
But they're with us.
They're with us, they are. It's been so great talking to you, Pam.
Me
I
too.
love the work you're doing. I love that
Thank
you're open to the downloads because they really help. They
you.
help so many people. They help me. Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that, and they help me, and I get just as much out of this as, hopefully others get from everybody just sharing their stories like you and in a very raw, authentic, very transparent way. It's helpful. I mean, it is. Every
Yeah.
experiences grief, and people are
Yes.
scared to talk about it,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
real. It's everyday life, and, if you can get to a place of really living with the grief in a healthy way, because it doesn't go away. We
No.
will miss them, we'll always feel the
Learn
loss.
you can carry it easier. You get stronger. It's like
Yeah.
you work out carrying that 100-pound backpack every
Mhm.
single day,
Yeah.
you know? First, it feels like you'll never be able to do it, and then you just have to do it. You have to do it. So you do it until you just it's like you can carry it. It's not less heavy. It's just that you get
Right.
stronger.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Yeah, and I really do think that there's, very healthy way to carry it, and then there's unhealthy ways,
I think
and,
that's
um, you just gotta figure out how to get there to that healthy side and get back to living life and finding joy again, that's what
ama
it's about. Yeah.
yes, I have so much joy in my life, so much, and I mean, so many good friends, so much fun.
Mhm.
uh, I miss Brian every minute of every day, and those are both true.
They're
Yeah.
both true, and they can be true at the same exact
Yes.
time. Yep,
Yeah.
as so
Mhm.
many things can, but thank you
Yeah.
so much. I love this
Oh,
con
I love you, Pam. It's
love
so
you.
good to see you, and I miss
Mhm.
you, and I wanna
Yeah,
come to and see
come.
guys, see
I have
Jess's pup.
lots of extra bedrooms with the kids not living here now, so
Oh, alright, I'm
come
gonna
down.
consider that.
Add that to your travel agenda. That'd be amazing.
No, I do.
Yeah, actually, I wonder, Gavin might
Oh.
be going to Whistler.
Oh, you know what? If he needs a place to stay,
Uh-huh.
I've got a lot of it. I've got 4 empty bedrooms up there.
Okay.
So they're all, like, nice and, like, clean sheets,
All right.
waiting guests.
I'll tell him because that was the last I heard is that's where he was looking, so
Girls are Stephen and Carolyn are both here, and they both ski, and
oh,
they love skiing, and they take the condo out sometimes, and
okay.
Marion has she lets them use, so,
Okay.
uh,
Okay. I'll
yeah,
tell him to get in touch with you. All
yeah,
right.
get
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It was so awesome.
yeah,
I
you.
love every second of this, and I want to thank everybody else for tuning in, listening, and if this conversation touched you, share it with somebody who needs to hear it. There's so many, like we said, everybody's dealing with grief of some kind, and there's all different ways to process it and get through it. And there were so many helpful nuggets in this that I'm sure will help so many people. And love lives on. It lives on through the loss. It lives on with us. It's in us every day, and they're always here with us. So until next time, take care of you, take care of your heart, and just find your joy. But thank y'all.